Welcome to the Growing Up Bananas podcast, where we dissect the perks and tribulations of being bananas.
It's hard being yellow when I feel so white.
My name is Ethan. Stephen is sitting next to me, and in many ways, I'm sitting next to him. What do we have in store for today?
We are joined by overall good guy and friend of the show, Bryan. We are hoping to get an insight into his journey so far, the main differences he sees between Western and Asian cultures, and talk a little watches. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so it's quite a long episode with Bryan, so it'll be good to get a bit of insight into his life, especially what he does for work, and talk watches a little bit, and we'll take that from there. Let's do it.
Can't wait.
Whenever, probably there's an argument between my parents and myself, they would never say sorry. They would just prepare you your favorite meal and say, "Oh, food's ready." So they won't apologize to you, but it's I just end up with your favorite dish or your favorite meal on the table. If they comment on a lady's appearance, "Oh, you're so fair," the first thing they will say is the first compliment they give is "Oh, you're so fair," and it's "Oh, okay, that's a very, very strange way to compliment." But I think for Asians, being fair is the fairer you are, the prettier you are. Some sort of anxiety or depression, it's get over it, or probably they think "Oh,
You're possessed.
you're possessed," so we just go to the temple or to the church or wherever to pray more.
This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Many thanks to the Deluxe Edition Network for voting us Podcast of the Month. Please check out the other winner as well, In a Pickle Radio Show. Thanks again to the Deluxe Edition Network. So today we're joined by a great friend of the show, Bryan. Apart from being a top 6 Asian goalkeeper in Brisbane, Bryan is an appreciator of the finer things in life, and like Stephen, has spent a lot of time around the watch collecting community. Welcome, Bryan.
Hi Ethan. Hi Stephen. Thanks for having me.
So, Bryan, first question is always the same. Do you consider yourself a banana at all?
Honestly, yes, I do. I do think I am a banana, and I grew up not really speaking Chinese or Mandarin. I think my parents gave up on me. They tried to speak to me, tried to speak Cantonese to me when I was, I don't know, up about 5, and then I just replied in English all the time, so they just gave up. And since then, just English all the way.
And now you're living in Australia, so it's
Yep.
kind of adapt to your surroundings too.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So take us through really quickly your cultural background, where you were born, a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so I was born in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I grew up in Malaysia, KL, and just went through the usual non-super Chinese family growing up. So we practiced all the, we celebrated Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, and did all the Chinese stuff. But my parents weren't particularly really super Asian with me in that sense. So I went to a national school, which subjects like science and math were taught in, the national language, which is Malay. We had a choice as well, you can go to Chinese or Indian schools and stuff, but decided to send me to a national school. Studied my whole schooling life up to high school, and then did 1 year of pre-university in Malaysia, and then came here for my remaining of my bachelor degree.
Okay, so you're very lucky to come before, I suppose, you had a job and you were able to study here.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Your cultural background, is it Chinese then?
So my dad's side, my dad's grandfather came from China. So he came to Malaysia from China. So he's like 100% Chinese
Yeah.
on my dad's side. My mom's side is a little bit mixed because I'm not sure if you guys know. Back in the day, like Malaysia was colonized by so many countries: Japanese, the Portuguese, the Dutch. But yeah, so my mom her side is Peranakan. So what that means is that's like melting pot of like the Malays and the Portuguese and also the Chinese.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, so that's a bit of a mixed heritage culture from my mom's side.
But today I really wanted to get a bit of a like compare and contrast
Yep.
because obviously you've lived quite long in Australia.
Yep.
You also lived a lot of your life in Malaysia.
Yeah.
So compare and contrasting the Western and the Eastern
Yeah.
sort of cultures and experiences.
Yeah.
So there'll be a couple of different things that we can all kind of talk about on that front.
Yep.
So I guess living here in Australia then, the biggest thing that I see, and we can put this out to both of you, is the relationship with your parents. So what we've noticed is a lot of Asian parents, if they're not born in Australia, the hierarchy is quite defined. So you've got parents, you've got children, and that's kind of pretty clear. There's no real back and forth. It's the parents that tell you what to do, and that's kind of it. Can you guys elaborate on any of that from what you guys have seen?
For me, when I was younger, there was a very clear parent-son relationship. So they handed down the order, and I listened. But I think past grade 12, then they completely let us do whatever we wanted. So we were just treated as adults making our own decisions.
Yeah, so sort of once the job was done.
Yep. They let us free. They clipped our wings.
What about you, Brian?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think up to pretty much when I left Malaysia, which was about 10 years now. So I'm 31 this year and left when I was 21. So yeah, right pretty much when I left, I think the whole dynamic of the relationship changed, especially with my dad. So it was just very parent-child relationship. Just doing what you need to do, just go to school, just graduate, and there was no sort of conversations about life in that sense. But yeah, after I left, like it was a slow transition from like just being a father-son relationship, became more of a, let's say, friendly relationship as well, where my dad started talking, opening up a little bit more. So yeah, that was my experience with my dad. But with my mom, she's always been like a typical Asian mom, housewife. Just picked my sister up from school, sent us for tuition classes, extra classes, and yeah, just the usual mom-child relationship as well. So yeah, there was not really a friendly relationship until like in the most recent years, I'd say.
And a book that I know Stephen knows very well, which is The 5 Love Languages. Asian parents, they tend to show their love language through, acts of service rather than affection. I think that's fairly. Talking to Sam, he said that was pretty common with you guys. Is you knew that you were provided for, you knew that your parents would be there for you, but you wouldn't get the hugs and kisses that maybe you think you deserved.
Yeah. So what are the 5 love languages again? So there was physical touch,
Acts of service,
Yep.
words of affirmation.
Physical touch. Did we say that one?
Yes.
Acts of service, physical touch,
Time. What I forget.
Quality time.
Quality time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're missing one, but
Yeah.
basically, I think
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing is Asian parents, they show their love language differently to what you would normally say. Like for my experience, my parents were very, I'm gonna say lovey-dovey, but they didn't mind really praising us and hugging us and things like that, and potentially like talking to friends and things like that who are Asian. They see that as more of like a Western type of parenting. So yeah.
And yeah, I have to add as well, like whenever like probably like there's an argument between my parents and myself, they would never say sorry. they would just prepare you like your favorite meal and say, "Oh, the food's ready." So they won't apologize to you, but it's like they just smile and say, "Oh well, I probably like both of us wouldn't apologize, but yeah, I just end up with like your favorite dish or your favorite meal on the on the table. And it's like, oh, your soup's ready, and it's like, oh, okay. So and then we just assume everything's fine. So there was not really like a discussion of who's in the wrong or who's sorry. Yeah, so it pretty much ends up just with a meal.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that like it's applicable to you guys or you guys could relate with that as well.
Probably more me, where I wouldn't say sorry, and then I'd hang the washing or something and be like, oh yeah, the washing is done. That's my apology.
Yeah.
The next one then, so dependency. So we find that Asian kids, sort of first or second generation in Western countries, tend to live at home a lot longer. I've been sort of thinking about it, and I think it is because you're used to having a big family network around you. Obviously, the financial side of things. Why move out if you don't need to, especially in an expensive country like Australia? What about for you guys? What's your thoughts on dependency? Because you guys both moved out quite young, didn't you? In the scheme of things.
Yeah, I moved out, I think, after university finished. And I think it was borderline being forced out because my parents wanted us to be independent. So they didn't support us financially, or they didn't want us mooching off them. So, that we just kind of got forced out to, I guess, be experienced in living by ourselves.
Was that mutual though, or like they were like, "Oh, just get out"?
Oh, I didn't mind, to be honest. I thought we were kind of reached that point, in our lives where we should try living outside. And I did enjoy living at home because it was comfortable and just so used to it. But it was really good experience to live outside as well.
Yeah, and you get your mom's home cooked meals.
Yeah,
as well, so.
that was a big bonus. Yeah.
That's so good.
What about you, Bryan? Do you have a lot of sort of not friends or just other Asians around your age, our age, who are still at home?
Yeah, I think it's slightly changing in terms of the way how well my friends back in Malaysia live right now. Some of them still live with their parents because it's obviously more economical, financially better for them. But when I went back the last time, most of them actually bought a place or an investment property to rent it out. So they might still be living with their parents, but they rent it out. So, it's I think it's slightly changing to a more let's say Western culture in terms of they want to have their own freedom and being able to live on their own as well. For me personally, I moved out when I came overseas. So I didn't really have a choice, but I had to live by myself. Had to do everything by myself, and I definitely enjoyed the freedom and being able to just not having to report to anyone. Well, I do, and I still do miss like staying home sometimes. Mom's cooking and just spending time with them. But if I had to weigh the pros and cons, I do prefer living by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I've got a lot of family, and I guess friends and people around my age who are still at home if they're single. So I think the culture, well, back in the day, like you said, it's changed now, was to kind of stay at home until you were married. So, it's interesting how that's kind of changed a little bit as well.
And I think usually with Asian parents as well, like you would probably live at your house with your parents until you buy a house. So you wouldn't really like rent. And maybe for Asian parents, like, oh, why rent when you can just stay here and live for free? Just wait until you have enough money and just go buy a house when you're ready.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think, but like you said, like it's just getting more, let's say, westernized in that sense. We're moving out at a younger age.
Yeah. So do we agree that is probably a thing, that a lot of Asians traditionally would stay home longer, probably be less independent?
Yeah. Yep. I would say so.
Because your parents are like, I've never met them, and I've known you guys I've known Sam for so long. Are they fairly Western?
I'd say yes, they are.
They sound like they have quite a lot of Western values?
Yep. I think a lot of the principles that I guess they go by are Western. More so my dad than my mum, but
Yeah.
my dad, I guess, makes the big decisions. I guess, yeah,
Makes the big bucks, makes the big
yeah.
decisions. So, yeah, moving on then. So, standards of beauty was the next one that I highlighted. Something interesting to compare and contrast. So we had Ira, who was on here a couple of episodes ago, and she was from the Philippines, and she was talking about how I don't know if you guys ever watched Miss World or Miss Universe. I probably dabbled a little bit when I was a bit younger, when there was not much else to watch on TV, and the Philippines would always be up there in terms of the contestants, and they would always be really pale. And I was always like, is that what all Filipino women are like? And then anyway, Ira went on to say that the whole beauty pageant kind of industry scene, if you will, is very popular, especially in the Philippines. And usually it's the more paler women that have the success. So what do you guys see in terms of beauty standards? So let's start with women, then we can talk about men. But for women, the beauty standards of a Western versus an Eastern woman.
Yeah, I do agree. It's like, well, when I used to, or when I still go back to, like, visit relatives for Chinese New Year or for any like family events, and the first thing they'll comment on, like, if from an outsider perspective, like if they comment on like a lady's appearance, like, oh, you're so fair, the first thing they will say is like, oh, like the first compliment they give is like, oh, you're so fair, and it's like, oh, okay, that's a very, very strange way to compliment. But I think for Asians, like, being fair is like the ultimate level of being of like complimenting. It's like the fairer you are, the prettier you are.
Yeah.
And and it's funny how, I don't know how that sort of being fair is being pretty has been established, and that's probably like in the Asian culture.
Yeah, I think it's like a Western standard of beauty because you want to be whiter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a woman, so I wouldn't know, but you can speak a bit about this with the Korean culture.
Yeah.
Everyone's pale as anything.
Yeah, I think probably Koreans started this. Like, I think the whole it started like back in the days when there were like people working on farms, a lot of people working in the bushes, and it kind of gave the impression that you were poor if you were tan because you were working outside all day in the farms, and if you were like paler, you'd be in the office, so a bit higher class. So I think that's how it started, and it's just taken off. But definitely in Korea, the whiter you are, the I guess it kind of maybe gives the impression that you're innocent or prettier or more pure in a way. Like all this, like the skincare and stuff that they have there. There's like, if you just get like a normal moisturizer, like it'll have some like whitening thing in it to make you whiter. And I think a lot of the products there are targeted towards making your skin a lighter shade.
So do like people get judged, like if they're
it's not that bad, but I just think it's something in the background, but not something that's because like Korea's adapted a lot of Western mentality as well recently. Like, so there's more people are more into like bodybuilding, more into tanning, whereas 10 years ago, guaranteed if you had like a big body or if you were muscly, like that was considered a big turnoff. But now it's very different.
You watch any K drama and the guys are always bloody either ripped or jacked.
Yeah,
so I thought that's what all Koreans are like.
Yeah, no, it's very different than how it used to
Physical be. One. Was it Physical 100?
Yeah, I was in that.
Yeah, I thought I saw you.
You were there.
Yeah. I was the one holding the boulder.
That's right. That's why you live in a gym now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so I think you're exactly right with the women, and then I guess contrast that to what sort of Western standards of beauty is, and typically, if let's just say you're looking in the TV, you see ads and things like that, the women are usually typically want to say darker, but like it's good to be outdoors and healthy. That's kind of like attractive in the Western society. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I think mainly when I came to Australia, or that's when I pretty much got exposed to mainly more to the Western culture. Like Malaysia was pretty westernized in a way that we get a lot of influence from like the from pop culture, from the US, from everywhere around the world. But mainly in Australia, like people love to be tan, like going to the beach, and the first thing like girls when they compliment say, "Oh, you're so tan now." It's like, "Oh, you look great. You're so tan." So yeah, it's definitely different in terms of what Western culture and the Asian culture see in, I'd say, beauty. I'm not sure if you put beauty, but yeah, like they will compliment firstly on your skin or your tan or how fair you are. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually say in the Western culture, it's even changed than what it was maybe 5-10 years ago, because people are more aware of sun damage, and I guess it ages you a lot. So people are being much more careful with sunscreen and yes, being in the shade compared to before, where people would just always go to the beach, get sunburnt, get tanned, and it was like a good thing to do. But so I think overall being tanned is still considered a good thing, but also people are aware of the health implications for it.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And then for guys, then, so again, let's take it back to Korean men. You can probably talk a bit more about the ideal Malaysian physique. So, like you say, a lot of the Korean guys, they start working out more. You go to the gym. You're there 3 times a day.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of people who are putting a lot of emphasis on their fitness at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm not too sure how it started. Possibly like it all roots from
Jersey Shore, isn't it?
the Korean dramas. Whatever comes out in the Korean dramas is what people wanna look like or wanna do.
Yep.
So that must be how it started. But definitely having a good physique, being tall, those kind of things are definitely make you more attractive to a girl if you're a guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from my experience, the last time I went to Malaysia was a couple months ago. But when I left, and I think it's still the trend, or like the ideal body type would probably be like just slim. I would say, like, I'm not sure if you guys they don't really have the brand here. Top Man, like
Yeah,
Top Man, yeah.
yeah, Top Man, yeah, like just being skinny and not muscly, not ripped or not buff. Just a slim, slender dude would probably be the ideal physique. But yeah, it is like getting into fitness and like lifting weights is definitely becoming more and more of a trend / lifestyle now, because I think just so much influence on social media that people do want to get into, not just for fitness but to look good as well.
Yeah. I think it's a good point. I never actually thought about it. I mean, it makes so much sense that people are following like the dramas and stuff, because if you watch older like Taiwanese or Hong Kong or Chinese dramas, the guys were always really slim. And then suddenly the last, whatever it has been, the last, like, say, 8-10 years, the guys have started to be a bit more ripped, a bit more jacked. So
Yeah.
Probably, the girls are getting more jacked as well, so the guys need to to keep up with that.
Yeah. So then, moving on then, so I think the last one, which is probably a given, is priorities. So particularly the one that I was going to highlight is a lot of Asian Australians that I know, their fathers are either living overseas working or going back and forth overseas. I don't know if you guys have any experiences where that's the same for like a Western Australian. But yeah, I find that that's something that a lot of Asian Australians are open to do because it's a priority. Setting your family up, being financially sound, is more important than actually being physically here. I don't know if you guys have some examples.
From my experience, like with like dads in or Asian dads or Chinese dads in Malaysia, I have a few friends that their fathers are always doing business trips as well. So I think it's probably quite an Asian thing where it like earning money and looking after the kids is still a priority. And even if they don't travel overseas or having business trips, they'll probably be just working from like 8 p.m. So the window of actually interacting with your dad is only on weekends, and pretty much only on weekends, because like in the morning you prepare for school, your dad's already out for work, you come back, you have extra classes, and by the time your dad comes home, you're probably getting ready for bed, so you don't really have much interaction with your dad.
Yeah.
And probably still the same in terms of the mindset and the culture for Asian dads to look after the family, and that's the main priority.
Yeah. So on that then for you, Brian, did you ever, sort of backtracking, did you have much family pressure growing up to be financially, whatever it is, go down a certain path, or were your parents fairly open to letting you make your own decisions?
I have to say I'm pretty lucky. My parents, like, they've been supportive in the sense where they would allow me to do almost anything I want, as long as I'm not in jail or. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you got lucky a few months ago, so.
No, but oh yeah, that's true. But like as long as you get your priorities, like just being responsible, getting a degree. I think that's the number one for most Asian parents, like having their child to just graduate from uni. I think that's the main thing. And my parents, they were pretty open with allowing me to study like pretty much anything what I wanted, and just giving me the autonomy to make my own decisions. And I don't feel any sort of pressure from them or financial pressure from them. So
you can study and be anything between a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant. You can do whatever you want.
Fortunately, I'm glad I'm still allowed home, even though I'm not one of them. So.
yeah, that's right. So then, Brian, between you and me, how we actually met, don't know if anyone's actually interested, but we used to work at the same company, not at the same time, but the same company. So you were at one stage headed down that sort of corporate life environment. What sort of happened there? So you kind of, I don't want to say turning your back on it, but you were there, you had a good crack at it, and then you decided that wasn't for you?
Yeah, because I graduated with a bachelor's in finance and accounting. So that was my second job after being an accountant. And I think back then, like, I just wanted to do something with my degree, and I wasn't really sure. So, Future Assist was like the ad was honestly,
the ad looks great.
The ad looks great. It's like all these possibilities you can do, and like so much great career enhancement. And the next thing you do is like, be dialing we cold calling 200 calls a day. Trying to
200 or 3 meetings a day, whatever came first, really.
But just had a crack at it, but I just didn't feel like it was the right industry for me, and decided to switch to more the human services, and never look back. So
in hindsight, was it that particular company that turned you off the corporate world, or was it always inside you that you probably didn't have the desire to do it?
Well, I feel like I'm always like just a helpful person, just wanting to help, and that was financial planning. So you somewhat helped them in terms of their finances, but it was more about sales, and I enjoyed more of the helping part rather than the sales part.
Yep.
So I just reflected on it, and it's like, I still want to do something that I could help people, and just decided to do my master's in social work as well. So, and while I was studying, and just got a job in in mental health, and then from then onwards, I felt like that was my calling, just working in mental health.
Yeah. I mean, the positive from Future Assist is we met some cool people. We
Yes.
still hang out with some of them to this day. This is
Yeah.
like 7-8+ years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, I think we all went through what. Yeah, we understand what we went through at Future Assist and how I don't even know how to put that into words. Like, it was just a very interesting experience. That we all could understand each other, and that's why we probably could click with most of them. And yeah, we still play soccer with a couple of them as well, which was great. I mean, which is great. Yeah, just having that sort of friendship even after.
It's like coming back from a war, and then you've got those memories, and you're bonded forever.
I think Steven would do well at Future Assist, I reckon.
This episode is brought to you thanks to Ronin Grooming. If you're looking for a fresh cut and some quality chats, hit up Richard at Ronin Grooming, located at Wills Gym, McGregor, and give him a follow at roningrooming.au on Instagram. So, Brian, you spoke about now in the social work side. So
Yep.
you say you're sort of specializing in the mental health.
Yep.
You kind of spoke about how you got into it, but that particular area, was that always an interest of yours?
I feel like, yeah, when I reflect on, is that the area that I really want to work in? And when I think about it, is like I do have the passion for this because I feel like I always want to be an older brother, and I always want to have like younger siblings where I can like mentor and work with.
Yeah.
And right now I do work with adolescents or young people between 16 to 21, and yeah, I just have that sort of passion of working with people that are less privileged than I am, because I feel like I've been very blessed, very thankful throughout my whole life, and I just want to, just be able to give back in that sense where I can, just mentor and help young people that are going through difficulties and challenges.
Well, both of you are actually doing like real stuff. You're healing people, you're helping people, and I'm just moving money around. So I feel pretty inadequate on that front. But man, that's so cool that you figured that that's something you wanted to do, and then you actually went after it. Mental health specifically, we sort of just spoke about it off camera. It's quite a new thing to be diagnosed with, and then the treatments as well. And obviously the West is probably a bit further than what the East would be in terms of understanding it and then actually accepting it. From your experience, what can you talk about that?
Yeah, like even in Australia, even mental health wasn't really considered as like with the NDIS, like, well, it wasn't too long ago that only mental health, if you had mental health issues, you'd be eligible to get an NDIS plan. So recognition and awareness hasn't been around until like the most recent years, and particularly like during COVID or after COVID, there was definitely more awareness with mental health and mental health issues. So it's still like a stigma where people think that if you have sort of a mental health issue, you're probably crazy or you're insane. But it like stats have showed that like almost everyone will probably go through like some stage in their life with anxiety or depression, and they just don't seek help, and that's why it just becomes worse, and that's when it actually affects them mentally and physically.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, with the Western culture, especially in Australia, if I compare that to Malaysia, like Malaysia has almost zero awareness of mental health, and Australia has been, if I compare that, like honestly really good in terms of just being able to support those people that actually needs mental health. And maybe really good is it's still not good enough, because there's so many people that needs help and they're not getting help. And but yeah, I still feel like there's so much more improvements or areas that could still help with mental health and awareness and just being able to um, assist those that actually need it.
Yeah.
Um, I've got two questions.
Yep.
Number one, what would you consider to be the criteria for someone to seek help for their mental health? Because it's a bit of a grey area, and some people could just be having problems; they can get over it by themselves. What's that next step?
So you right now they implemented like if you go to GP, you can get a mental health plan. So if you're saying that it's like you're not feeling mentally fine, you can't you're feeling this and that, depressed or anxious, and you can't do certain things like daily activities, and the first step probably is get a mental health plan, and then you can see like a psychologist. I think I'm not sure how many sessions is it now, but you do get an amount of free sessions, and so that's when you'll be able to be able to talk to someone without spending any money.
So it was basically when you're unable to perform your normal daily tasks, that's when you should really seek some professional opinions.
Well, I think speaking to a therapist now is pretty common. Like even though if you don't have like serious mental health issues, or you're just going through life and trying to handle emotions or just regulate certain things, your emotions or certain things in life, like seeking a therapist is very, very common now, and you don't need to have like severe mental health issues. You just want to talk to someone and just just release your feelings. So
Yeah, that's actually something that, I don't have any like severe mental health issues or anything, but something I've considered seeking just because I've heard it just helps organize your thoughts and things like that. But, it's obviously a bit daunting admitting that you kind of need that extra help. That's what I've found as personally. Yeah. But,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, been thinking of it though. But
that's good. Like, and you don't really see as like, you have mental health issues. You just want to talk to someone and, like you said, just organize your thoughts, and being able to be organized in your emotions and your feelings and in your life, just having things in a more organized manner. But with the NDIs as well, like it is a very let's say it's still a very somewhat new scheme that was brought, and it's always changing all the time. But how a person gets NDIS, like gets a package, it's a deficit like a deficit program in a way, not program, like a assessment. So I won't go too much into it, but like I was saying earlier, in order to get like an NDIS plan, you have to show them that you're incapable of doing daily activities. So that's where I was heading towards. Like, like if you can't shower, you can't go out to get groceries, and that's when only they feel like you're eligible for a plan. So it's very it's like it's quite demotivating in some ways as well. Like it's disempowering the person that they only get the plan if they can't do certain things. At the same time, I do agree with it as well.
Can't give it to everyone, right?
Yeah, that's right. But and then there's things that I really appreciate from the plan as well, like this whole scheme, the insurance plan, the NDIS plan, that just allowing them to get that support that they need. But if like, but what I said earlier as well is like you don't really need to be incapable to seek help or support. Anyone can just do it if they just want to talk to someone and just have things that they want to discuss about or just want to talk about.
did you always believe in mental health, and if not, when and what triggered you to believe in it?
It's a very good question. I wouldn't say like I always thought of doing mental health or believed in mental health, but I've always been like a very it's like I wouldn't say I've always been a very like chilled, laid back, happy go lucky person. I was always worried when I was younger, anxious about a lot of things. But just probably past few years, when I started working in the mental health industry as well, like there's so many bigger issues in life, and why should I be worried or anxious about things when other people are going through so much more than what I am. So that just gives me a different perspective in life where I don't have to worry about that stuff, and I can just be content and just be happy. So
Because like they say, and you said it earlier, that the rates are on the rise. Now, maybe controversial or not, but as Trump said during COVID, if you test more, you're going to find more. Is it now that we are looking out for it more than that's why it's potentially spiking? What do you think about that?
it is very. It's still quite a. I wouldn't say quite a taboo topic to talk about, but everyone has different perspective on mental health, and some might use it as like an excuse, or some might use it as
Ben Simmons.
Oh, yeah.
Simmons. Yeah, that's
No,
right.
I'm not at all, but we don't know. But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because now in sports,
Mm,
it's now an injury as well.
yeah,
A lot of athletes are taking time out of the game
yeah,
for mental health problems. How can you diagnose it?
yeah.
How do we know what they're going for? Is it they're just not mentally strong to, go through the rigors of being a professional athlete, or do they have a mental health problem? It's like, where do you go?
And it's still a gray area. Like, of course, you can diagnose like certain stuff like depression or PTSD or BPD.
The yips.
Yeah. So, but there's still such a gray area where people can just use mental health as an excuse. And what you brought up about Ben Simmons as well, like I remember Shaq saying something. There's a difference between mental health and mental fortitude, and not many people are aware of that.
Yeah.
Can you quickly explain that in your understanding? Because I don't understand it.
Well, when you think of mental health, it's just like it's like your physical health.
Yep.
But what goes on in your head and how it transpires into your everyday living. So there are things you can do to improve your mental health. It could be exercise. It could be reading a book. It could be anything that's therapeutic to your to you.
Yep.
So, and mental fortitude is just having like perseverance or building that sort of fight in you that you. Yeah,
Well, there is that 1 or 2% that separates the top athletes, right?
Yeah.
And it's usually the mental side of it.
Yeah.
And some people may just not have that. Doesn't mean it.
Yeah, and with people talking about more about mental health, quite a number of them just use it as an excuse as well. So there's so much to talk about, but and
Is this the NBA player? I thought his name was pronounced Ben Siemens.
Why? Actually,
Yeah, I always thought it was.
definitely Ben Simmons.
Because I've never heard anyone say his name. I thought it was Ben Siemens.
Definitely. But let's I think that was good. I think there's quite a few things there, and then probably the last one for me is: do you see acceptance of it more between cultures? So, for example, we had Richard, who Stephen knows. He was saying that his dad clearly had some sort of a depression or anxiety from his past, but he was just suppressed it because you're either weak and you get over it, or you don't get over it. Are you seeing more acceptance of it between cultures?
I think it's still a very taboo topic in the Asian culture. So like what you said, if a parent hears their child or experience it with their child that they're going through, some sort of anxiety or depression. It's like, get over it, or probably they think like, oh,
You're possessed.
you're possessed. So we just go to the temple or to the church or wherever
Pray
to
more.
pray more and to overcome that, but not actually seeking the professional support.
Yep.
And while I feel like Asians in Australia, they're probably getting more they would probably accept it a bit more, but there's still like that fear that if they tell it to their family that are still very traditional in their thoughts, they would look upon differently by their family members or their friends. And yeah, I just have an example where I was working with this young person, Filipino background. The young person was actually transitioning from a female to a male, and from female to male.
It's quite rare, isn't it?
Yeah.
Usually the other way. Oh, I wouldn't know, but
I was going to ask, how do you know that?
yeah. So but recently we've been working with a lot of young people transitioning genders, and and this particular young person, biologically a female, was transitioning to a male, and while the parents were supportive in terms of the young person's mental health or getting support, going through this program, working with us, the parents would still call the young person with their biological name, which is something that they didn't really want to. So they have a preferred name, which is more like a gender neutral or a male name. But while they wanted support for the young person, they still kept calling their child their biological name, which is a female, neuro-female name, and also addressing them as a female rather than actually being more understanding of their transition. So there's still a lot of awareness, but I think just
there's a lot of ways to come, a lot of work to be done. I think.
Yeah, I still feel like there's a lot of
early days.
Yeah, Asians are getting more, like Asian families or the culture is just getting more understanding that it is something that we have to deal with. Like it is a different era from when they grew up. So but there's still a lot more understanding or education that we probably still need to learn as well.
Yeah.
For someone who's not sure what gender they are, what would be your advice to them? Yeah, or if they're undecided, if they like say if they're male but they're not sure if they're female or male or
Well, usually I will recommend them to go. I'll refer them to a gender clinic just to go through a few weeks to, just to talk to someone regarding what could be that, what could spark that thought. Could it be people in school bullying you, and like if you're a female, like people start bullying you, it's like and then they start feeling like am I someone else if I'm getting bullied? Like I don't like myself, so maybe if I become a male, like people start liking me and I'll stop getting bullied.
Oh, okay,
So, that's one of the main, quite a big reason why people feel like they're not in their own body or they're unsure of their gender, bullying, and also like trauma or being physically or sexually abused by, say, I'll just give an example. So for example, like a young person, which is a female, that gets sexually or physically bullied by a male, and they feel like transitioning genders would probably remove that trauma and make them feel more masculine, that they can overcome that sort of experience where they went through.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you two examples.
Great example.
Yeah, quite I would say common, but it is quite a I would say common, but it is common as well. Like with the young people that, in my own experience that I worked with, experienced those kind of traumatic incidents that caused them to wanting to transition
Yeah.
genders.
I've never thought about it like that, but listening to it, it's a very reasonable train of thought, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, you can think even like if someone's not developing like during puberty and their body parts aren't developing, you get teased for that, and you're like, oh well, crap, maybe I'll be better off with the opposite gender.
Yeah.
We all, like, fortunately, like we wouldn't really know, but people like you doing great work to support that. That took a different turn than I thought we would, but let's lighten it up a fraction. So probably 60% of the reason why I ever talk to you, maybe more, and 90% of Stephen is for watched horology chatter. So let's start off with, for you, how did you get into it, and what was the first sort of piece that sparked your the itch?
I think like any one of us, most of us had like a G-Shock or Baby G growing up, or a Swatch. I'm not sure about you guys, but
I had a Swatch, yeah.
I didn't have any. No, I didn't. I had an Emporio Armani.
Oh, you went straight into like the designer stuff.
From the 16-year-old girlfriend?
Very rich.
Or mum and dad?
I can't remember. Probably mum and dad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I always had like a G-Shock. What's it? G-Shock. Yeah, Baby G growing up, and then always saw my dad had like this automatic watch, and saw like the second hand sweep real smoothly. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. So,
Do you remember what watch that was?
I think it was an Oris Diver. So it was an Oris Diver, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. It's like one day I'm gonna get it, and then like I had like a couple designer watches as well growing up, and then but my dad bought, like on my 18th birthday, my dad bought me a tag Heuer, and I think that pretty much sparked my my very unhealthy hobby of financially and irresponsible hobby of watches and horology.
Yep. So Stephen said on his episode it was the Speedmaster, wasn't it?
Seamaster.
Seamaster, the James Bond
Seaman Master.
Seaman Master.
Did you feel close to James Bond when you wore it when you were younger?
I didn't. I just loved the design, like the wave patterns on it. I just loved that. I thought it was so cool because it's actually like 3D, so it's not like just flat print. It's like got the waves coming out. So that's the main thing I liked about it. Yeah.
And then for you then, Bryan, so that's what sort of sparked it for you.
Yeah.
Been in the game for quite a while now then, I'd say. If you got that for like your 17th. Do you have any stories for us on a cool purchase that you got? Not in terms of how much you spent or anything like that, but a cool story. Maybe it was a family member or someone who helped you out, or you saw a watch on James Bond and you had to have it. Anything that you can sort of think of?
Remember buying this Cartier Santos from a guy in this room.
Wasn't me, so
No, that was actually my second. Well, I got into this like really like this rabbit hole during COVID, and I remember the first one I bought was a Tudor Black Bear 58, and the second one was that Cartier Santos from this very lovely gentleman right in front of me.
Is that the first one you bought from him?
Yeah, it was my first one. So,
And why the Santos?
just honestly at that time, like I was just getting to watches, and I felt like that was such a cool watch. Like it just looked really good. Apparently, like it is the first aviation watch that was created by what's his name?
They say the first wristwatch
The first wristwatch
in the history of mankind created.
Right.
Yeah,
There you go.
was a Santos, and
Yeah.
I saw this ad up by Mr. Stephen Chai, lovely Korean man.
Wasn't under Jason?
Oh yeah, his code name Jason. So it's like that was honestly my second purchase, and it was quite a big purchase as well. And I don't have it anymore, so it wasn't really memorable in that sense. But what was memorable was like just meeting people in the community, and I've met more people in the watch community as well, which I'm still friends with them, and like pretty good friends as well. So I think with watches, there are different reasons why people buy watches. Wealth statement, as a statement of wealth, a statement of status. Yeah, different reasons. But yeah, I feel like I'm just a watch nerd, and like I don't really have many watches that I buy in terms of sentimental value. But I was gifted a couple that I feel like I would never sell it. Mainly the one that my dad bought when I was 18, and also the one that he gave to me before I came over to Australia 10 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's cool that you have a dad who is into it and has some taste as well.
Taste maybe, not so sure, but
It's better than the Tommy Hilfiger one that's rolling around downstairs, but that's a different story. Do you guys find watches are like cars? So when you start to look for one, you see it more often out in the public, things like that? Because I was thinking about when you talk about then, for me, the standard black subby, once I started wanting one, I saw them everywhere. And I was like, and that actually made me not want to get one because I didn't realize how common they actually are. Have you guys had any experiences like that?
Personally, I don't see many luxury watches outside. I think because Brisbane is a relatively it's not like Sydney or like a really big
it's
city.
understated as well.
Yeah.
it's not,
So
yeah.
I don't personally see many high end watches, but when I do, I guess I'm always on the lookout, to be honest, for what's on everyone's wrist. And if I see something good, then I'll just have a little bit of a peek. But yeah, I think it's definitely doesn't happen that often for me.
No, I think so. Well, personally, like ever since I got into watches, like really into watches, probably during COVID, which was like 2019, 4 years ago. Like the first thing I would see, I know it sounds weird. Like the first thing I would notice on a guy would be like their watch on their wrist or what they're wearing around their wrist. So it's like, oh yeah, it's just I don't know if it's a weird thing or what, but like
I think we both do the same.
so okay, I don't feel out of
And I
place.
look at their shoes.
Oh, really?
You can tell so much about a guy from their shoes, their watch, and their hair.
Yeah, like no judgment, because but some people like just wearing an Apple Watch because it's just more convenient, a smartwatch because it definitely does so much.
But see, that tells you a lot about them, is that
Yeah.
they're about the convenience. I mean,
That's right.
automatic watches are useless at telling time.
Yeah. So exactly. So it does so much more than just an ordinary watch, and for a fraction of a price if you compare that to like whatever luxury watch. But yeah, like what Steven said as well. Brisbane is not very let's say, or the whole of Gold Coast and Brisbane, like they don't really get into watches that much. There are quite a number of people as well. Like if you go in like deeply into like the watch community in Brisbane or in Gold Coast, there are people that they love watches, but you don't generally see ordinary randomly on the streets all the time wearing Submariner or like a Speedmaster. So
See, because I'm in the city, and I actually see it quite a lot. Maybe
you look in the city.
maybe you can put a
Yeah.
timestamp on it, and it's post-COVID when crypto went stupid, and every man who had $1 to his name went out and bought something.
Yeah. If I saw a lot of them on the street, I definitely think I wouldn't. I would think I don't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be something a little different.
more
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is there anything that you've seen on someone's wrist and you're like, I liked that, but not anymore?
Yeah, your date just.
You got on your wrist now, man.
There has been. I'd say. I can't
It's
think-
been a lot for you, bro. Like you, because man, like so Steven's like this really reputable seller on on watch pages, and like the amount of watches that he sells.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I think
Yeah.
it's I'm always buying because a watch interests me. I don't think I'd go to the effort of buying something I didn't like.
Yeah.
So you'll never see me sell like something like above 40 mils because it's just too big for me. But I would say if I see a watch too big on someone, I'd be like, oh, that looks a bit silly, and then it'll make me not want that watch because I've got like similar wrists to them.
Yeah.
But not really. I don't think for me, nothing other than that I can think of.
Worst purchases? Can you guys think of? Can you pin it down to one?
Purchases.
Doesn't even need to be because actually just worst purchase.
What do you have? Do you have anyone? Do you have anything, Steven?
Yes, I actually just thought of one. So the worst purchase for me is a watch I don't wear, and that would be vintage Omegas. So I have an addiction to collecting vintage Omegas.
Yeah.
In pictures, they look amazing, and I just love the idea of them. The size, the history, the movement is very reliable, but I will never wear them. They just sit. So I've had a fair few, but vintage Omegas for me.
The first one that I can think of is a 36 Datejust two-tone gold dial. Yeah, it just look good in photos, man. Like when you look at a gold Datejust in photos or like on someone else's wrist, it's like, oh, that looks so good. And then I got it, and I didn't even wear it, so I just kept it in the box the whole time. Looked at it, it's like, oh, it's nice to look at, but when I put it on, it's like, oh, yeah, gold's just not.
Got to
for
be a
me.
certain person to pull off a gold.
And I'm definitely
Gold,
not that person. So I'm not very. I feel like I haven't reached that level where I can just rock a gold watch and just walk down the streets with a gold watch around my wrist. So I would say that was the worst purchase. Probably one. It might be, but I just don't wear it. And
What's your obviously you've tried
Yeah.
a fair few watches
Yeah.
in your watch collecting career. What's your all-time favorite watch that you've owned?
I think something that's simple and like you can just use it every day and fits my lifestyle as well. I feel like the best would probably be my Speedmaster. I do like my Speedmaster. So yeah, it's just simple, boring, just like me, iconic. No, I'm not
Iconic.
That's a good one.
Top 6 goalkeeper and top 6 Asian goalkeeper in Brisbane. But
It's just a simple day-to-day watch where like it's still very under the radar, but at the same time, it's just nice to have I don't know, be too explicit, but a beautiful timepiece made with love and thought and care around my wrist, and just like, oh yeah, it's pretty nice.
What's your Grail watch? So Grail is for the listeners that not sure what a Grail means. It's all time favorite.
Yes.
What you're saving up for?
Yes, the Grail watch. That's every watch collector question that they ask themselves every day. Honestly, I think I have ADHD in watches, so my attention span for every watch would probably be not very long, and it changes all the time, my Grail. But if I had to choose one right now, an Aquanaut on a rubber strap, just a simple rubber strap. Yeah, I know
Nice.
it's like very hype and stuff, but
Did
cool.
you gave your Grail, didn't you?
Yeah, it's just a steel Daytona,
Oh,
I
that's
think
right.
for me. Yeah.
yeah. Do you still have your steel Daytona?
I have. It's a secret, but I do have one left. It's
Multiple.
it's one of the older ones, but it's just away, and I've forgotten about it, and I'll revisit it at a later date.
What about you guys? What are your Grails?
I thought it was a gold Royal Oak,
Gold Royal.
but it's not.
Oh,
It's definitely not.
Yeah.
yeah. So what is it?
Probably some sort of Patek. Not sure.
Nautilus.
Nah, something a bit more classical.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
good.
Let's do a quick sort of association. So when I say the brand, we can go one for one. How do you think?
We'll do one. We'll do the same name.
Okay, same
Yeah.
name, one each.
Yeah.
Just whatever you think of when you hear of this brand, and when we're talking about what kind of person you'd think. So we start off with the Seiko.
Guys, enthusiast.
Novak Djokovic.
Nice. I was going to say the brand ambassadors. Omega.
Steven.
James Bond.
Rolex.
Football players.
Roger Federer.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah. No, can I just say with Rolex, hype beast.
Fair enough. Zenith.
Bath. Well, what I mean bath watches, well,
Was that bath as in throw
right,
up?
bath. No, like BATH.
Or, bath, yep.
Yeah, bath. So Zenith has this reputation of when you buy a Zenith, the value just depreciates like, I don't know, by a lot. So yeah, and what in terms of maybe like in the watch like language, when you buy a bath watch, it's like, yep, you're definitely gonna lose a lot of money in that. So
But it's cool.
it's cool, but it is a bath.
Lover of the brand. That same reason that Bryan gave. Those I've got two at the moment. I've had them for probably a year or two, and impossible to move. So you've got to really love the brand to get one. Yeah.
But in saying that, I do love Zen if I have one as well. So.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Cartier.
classy.
Yep. Elegance.
Hublot.
Nico. Do you know Nico?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nico. He reminds me.
I'd say a man that's not afraid.
Roids. Patek Philippe.
Rich.
Yeah. Serious collector or baller.
Statesman. AP.
LeBron.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I think of LeBron when I think of AP.
for
Because
some
he had his
reason.
signature watch for it, did he?
Yeah.
Now he's a Rolex guy.
I think the offshore with like a 23 or something there. Yeah.
I'd say lawyer that's worked for 6 years.
6 years.
6 years.
JLC.
I can't say classy anymore, but the person knows about watches. Like just a proper enthusiast of horology.
Yep, me too. Watch enthusiast.
What about RWC then?
Tom Cruise.
Just graduated uni and got it as a graduation present.
And the last one, Richard Mille. Got to be Rafa, surely.
It reminds me, honestly, for some reason, it reminds me of the incident where a guy in Europe, he got robbed of his Richard Mille, and then the robber realized it was a fake one, and then just gave him back 5 minutes later. Legit, there's a video on like YouTube, and so it's like he wouldn't get convicted, so he just decided to just give the fake Richard Mille back.
Mine was the same. Is it fake?
Because it's not worth spending. And then, well, that's pretty much it from the watch side. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add, comment on? One last thing that I kind of just thought about is, have you guys had any experiences where you either thought something you bought was fake or you just thought you were getting scammed? Do you guys have, because you guys obviously buy and sell. I haven't. Do you guys have anything you can share about that?
I do have one, but I can't say anything due to legal circumstances. I will come on again and share the story in the future. Yeah.
Once the case is resolved.
Okay. I think just buying from the person rather than buying it at a good price. Like, I know you want to get good deals all the time, but just buy the seller instead of the watch. And that's what most people, that's what person that's into watches would probably tell you. Just buy the seller and buy not the watch, because there's so many fake ones out there, and it's like it's getting even better. And I do have a previous incident where I bought a Hublot, so probably the first thing that comes to mind about Hublot should be PTSD, actually. Because I bought this Hublot Classic Fusion before. He was like a reputable seller, and like it all turned out in the end. Well, in the end, I got my money back. But yeah, so I got this Classic Fusion I would consider him as a watch friend. Got it, wore it, and then I sold it off to a different buyer. And then the buyer did his due diligence and actually got it checked at Monards in Melbourne, and it came back that the watch is actually not genuine. And it freaked me out a little bit, because that was when I got into watches at the start. So I was like, oh man, like I was afraid that I won't get my money back, and I had to go through all that hassle. So so he brought that in, and then they told him it wasn't a real, wasn't a genuine Hublot. Yeah, and then we all talked about it. I gave the watch back to the original seller, and we all got my money. We all got our monies back. But yeah, like it's just it's scary sometimes when you get into a hobby that's quite expensive and not knowing if it's gonna be a real or fake watch at times. But yeah, just do your due diligence and buy the seller.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a serious amount of money floating around. So, like you say, you're getting desensitized. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it works for you guys. And then what's next for you?
What's next for me?
Do you have anything you're working on the next couple of years? Where do you sort of hope to be? Any thoughts on that?
Just trying to be Steven in terms of watches.
So we all.
Yeah. Like he's actually my grail, so that's my true grail, just being like Steven or Jason.
What a great grail to have.
So yeah, in terms of my job and my career, I'm actually going to be transitioning to a different role, which is more of a management role in a couple of weeks. So yeah, I'll be looking after the team, so I'll be probably concentrating on that as well. And
more money for more watches.
Oh yes, more money for more watches. That's the main thing, watches.
Yeah.
So I'll be concentrating on that, and also I'm a big believer of using exercise and sports and fitness in mental health, and I do want to do that probably in sometime in the future. I'm not sure when, but I do have some clients that I still work, my private clients that I work with sometimes, on the weekends or outside normal work hours, using exercise as a tool to improve mental health or how you can achieve personal goals that could help mental health issues. So yeah, I'll be concentrating on that as well.
Yeah. Well, that'll be exciting to follow, and it's genuinely good work. So all the best, man. And right now you're still top 6 Asian goalkeeper in Brisbane, so maybe we can get that number down.
6. No, I gotta find that 5 and just the other 5.
Too easy, man. Thanks again, and appreciate your time.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks,
Thanks, Bryan.
Stephen.
Thank you.